everybody. So I wanted to come on here today to talk about the the intense trauma workshop that I did, not this weekend, but last weekend. So it's been about 9 days now since then. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was just my experience after that whole weekend and trying to reintegrate back into everyday life, into day-to-day things that you got to get done, Anyway, so where do I start? So my reason why I wanted to do the workshop, let's go there. So the reason why I wanted to do the trauma intense workshop originally was because so in one of my some of y'all, if y'all don't know, I'm in school. I'm in college right now as a psychology student, and so I interviewed a psychologist who's been a psychologist for about 10 or 15 years. And one of the things that he told me during the interview was that I would be doing my future clients, patients, an injustice if I didn't do my own work. And if I didn't get on the other side of the couch. So basically work on my own shit. I mean my own stuff. So I was like, okay, well, I've already done some work, on myself. I've gone through lots of counseling for, as some of y'all may know, I've done a lot of counseling for the CSA that I went through from the age of 2 till I was about 13-ish. And so, so I've done a lot of work on that. And I already had a purging process that I went through back when I was about 37, 38, something like that. And so I've done some work, right? So I'm thinking, well, I've already done some work. I don't really need to go any deeper, right? But so anyway, so that was my thought. And then as I met a person in my psychology class, and some of y'all might have seen the interview that I did with him. And so he's a friend of mine now, and he brought that up. He brought the he let me know there's a a trauma recovery place that they have like weekend workshops, and they don't do them every month. They do them from time to time. They'll do them, which I'm thinking once every couple months or once every few months or something is what I think it's what I saw. I think they have another one coming up in in June, and then they have another one I think in August. So anyway, so he mentioned it, and I looked into it, and I was like, why not, right? I've already gone and worked on a lot of stuff. Like, I'll just do it just to get get through it, because what my main goal was to help out, get my feet wet into, uh, helping others through uh, through trauma, and also this place is a addiction recovery as well. So I really don't understand that side of it. So I was like, why not get more, more experience with that? And so I was like, it can't hurt, right? So I'm just like, sure, why not? I'll do it. And then maybe I can get my, assist them do a volunteer work afterwards, right? Um, so basically, I wanted to go through the program just to get through it and get to the volunteering part of it, right? And the volunteering is because I want to be able to start getting experience in this, so that I when I graduate, I don't have a hard time getting a job, in this field, because I don't have any experience, right? So that was the reason why. My main reason why I went into this workshop thing, this weekend workshop. So signed up for it. I was like, you know, got there, and I I really wasn't expecting it to be that intense. It says intense, but I thought I'd already gone through a lot of it, right? So I didn't really take it as it was going to be that intense. But I think what made it even more intense for me is because I know that I'm an empath, right? And so I tend to absorb or feel people's feelings way too much. And to it's hard for me to disassociate myself from other people's hurts, and you know just people's pain and hurt and struggles and stuff like that. So I feel those feelings really deep, right? But I didn't take that into account, because again, I really didn't think it was going to be that intense. But yeah, that weekend, that which was the 10th through the 12th, I was there from the 10th through the 12th. And when I went in there, I also, even though I didn't think that it was going to be that intense, I did tell myself I wanted to make sure that I got the full, like, basically, I wanted to make sure that I benefited from it as much as possible, even though I felt like I'd already done a lot of my own work, right? And so I've done a lot of my own shadow work. So basically, I I went in there. I got there already, like telling myself, okay, I need to be honest and with myself, and I need to be vulnerable, and be open to what they're to their process, right? So so I went there with that type of mentality, because it's I feel like when you go to something like this, and you're really honestly trying to get the most out of it, you need to be open, you need to be vulnerable, in order for you to get the most out of something, a workshop like this. But I also believe it's the same when it comes to, like, going to a psychologist, counseling. Like, w- don't I don't believe that you should ever go to a psychologist or any kind of counseling if you're really not willing to be open and vulnerable or honest, um, because the counselor can only work on what you're letting them know, right? They don't know you, so they can only give you advice based on what you're letting them know. So if you're lying during the counseling, or yeah, during the counseling sessions, then I feel like you're wasting your time. And that's just my opinion, you know. Um, all the times that I've been to counseling personally, for many, many years, and taken my kids to counseling, and even like done couples counseling, and all of that. That's one thing that, like, I I don't like going in there if I'm going to be honest and my partner can't be honest, about what's really going on. Because I feel like then we're not going to get the full, um, we're not going to get good advice or strategy from the counselor, the psychologist, because they don't really know the truth, that's going on at home, you know, behind closed doors. So that's why I had the same mindset with this workshop. I'm going to go in there open, vulnerable, transparent, like whatever's in there that I haven't processed, maybe that's still in there, then let's work on it. Let's get it out, let's work through it, process it, so that that shadow work can be done, and I can be able to move forward. Um, and so that was the mentality, like I said, that I went in. And so it was pretty intense. And I think, like I said, that because I'm an empath, it was like, I felt like it was 10 times more intense for me, because the so they basically do psychodrama. And psychodrama refers to action oriented form of group therapy where participants act out personal life scenes, past traumas, or inner conflicts to gain insights and catharsis. Okay. So basically, role playing, role reversal, um, all of that, the role playing was taking place that weekend. And it's of course within a structured and safe group setting, with the professionals are there, monitoring everything and making sure everything's good and everybody's safe. But as every individual was doing their work, um, I was feeling that. I was feeling their pain, their hurt. So I was taking that on. And it's not that I purposely do that. Like, I don't want to soak that stuff in, but I haven't learned how to not soak it in, right? So it's hard for me to detach from somebody else's hurt and pain and feelings and intense, you know, emotional stuff that they're going through. So there was 10 people on my group, and there was 10 people on the other group, and we were separated into, those two groups. And they one was on one side of the, of the area of, like, the building, and the other one was on this side. Anyway, so um yeah, I mean, I'm watching each individual, because there's 10, like I said, to each group. So my group had 10. So I'm watching each individual go through their stuff, and I was just like taking all those emotions. I was just absorbing them, and I didn't even want to go, because I'd already absorbed so much, and I was already emotional. And I was having I felt like I was having, like, anxiety, like an anxiety attack, which I don't really struggle with that, but I felt like it was a lot for me. And I had to walk out several times, because I felt like I couldn't breathe. Like, I felt lightheaded. I felt super emotional, but it was for everybody else. I was feeling everybody else's hurt and pain, and I started thinking, like, I don't, am I even capable of becoming a psychologist or a therapist if I can't deal with people's, not that I can't deal with people's feelings, but it's a lot. And I get super emotional for them, and with them, and so I just started questioning myself, am I on the right career path? And it's not even about the career. I want to do this to help people, but how am I going to help people if like I'm crying for them all the time, or I don't know. I want to be able to have a good balance where I can have some humanity, but also not be like bawling all the time, for things that they're telling me they've gone through, all the traumas that they've gone through. And so I was questioning that, and as I'm catching or trying to go outside and catch my breath and take in some fresh air and just clear my energy try to clear my energy for a bit. And I try to go back in there because I'm like, I gotta learn how to like do this, because I'm gonna be a therapist so one day. And so I'm just like trying to force myself to go back in there. Well, another person would come and go through their process, and it was a lot. So I ran out into the outside to get some fresh air probably a few times during the few hours that we were there. And then so when it was my turn, I was already emotional about everybody else's stuff, everybody else's work that they'd done, and I was like already like I said, feeling lightheaded and hard to breathe, and uh, I felt really, really heart. Oh, sorry if I get emotional, but I felt really heartbroken for everybody else's pain that they'd gone through, everybody else's trauma and struggles that they'd gone through, and it still affects me when I think about it. And I'm just trying to learn how, and I know this will probably come with experience or more guidance, I don't know, but trying to learn how to be able to disassociate from people's hurt and pain and all that, and so when it was my turn, I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I've already gone through gone through the ringer, because I've already been through the ringer because I'd already been dealing with everybody else's stuff, and I was like the last one that went. And so I'm like the 10th ones that already gone through 9 other people's stuff that they'd worked through. So that, and I didn't take that into account whenever I made the decision to go into this workshop. I didn't know what to expect because nobody had really said anything to me about, other than there would be psychodrama, and based on Carl Jung's practices, I guess, or theories. And so that's all I really knew. I hadn't had time to research anything, so I didn't know what to expect. And so I didn't so I didn't even take into account that, that I'm super empathetic, and I feel people's feelings, emotions, hurts way too deep, and I don't know how to disassociate just yet from that. And I don't know that I want to always disassociate from that, but I want to have a good balance, right? So I didn't take any of that into account. I don't know, so I didn't think it was going to impact me. Like I said, I originally didn't think it was going to be that intense. So on top of it, I had a midterm exam coming up that following Monday, but also I didn't think it was going to affect me in any way. So anyways, just jumped in there. Let's do it. Let's get it done. And let's do this. I'm being told that I need to dig deep, and I need to work on my own personal continue to work on my own personal stuff. Um, and I've heard of the term, like, people's traumas are like an onion. They're like layers on top of more layers and more layers. And when you peel one layer, there's still like more layers that are there that you still need to work through, right? But but I've been peeling through layers pretty much on my own, and also with going through counseling and psychologists and stuff like that throughout my 30s and 40s. And so that's why I was like, how bad can this be? Because I've already done a lot of the work. But anyway, so I'd never done anything close to psychodrama. So I'd never experienced that type of therapy before. And so this was the first time that I've done a psychodrama type of therapy. And so, yeah, like I said, it was super intense, and I went in there purposely being vulnerable, allowing myself to be vulnerable and transparent, so that I could get to like the deepest parts of me, so that whatever needed to come up, and I could work through, any of my dark shadows, still like doing dark shadows work still that might be like deep in there, right? So anyways, so that was that. And then I get back home on Sunday afternoon, and everything just feels surreal still. Like, I don't know, I just felt like such a huge emotional hangover. I felt a huge emotional hangover, and I was really like still super like emotional that Sunday. I was emotional all day Monday, and Monday I had that midterm exam. And so after doing my own work on Saturday, I was still feeling the emotional hangover from that, because like I didn't think it was really much to work on, but there was still stuff in there that I had never um, I guess got through that layer of my trauma, right? And so that layer of my trauma, I was able to, for the first time, I think, feel, not just get past the sadness of what I'd gone through, right? The hurt, the pain, sadness. But now I had gone deeper, which led me to anger, uh, for what had happened for all the trauma that I'd gone through as a child. I got to learn a little bit about my inner child, and how to try to integrate back with my inner child as well, and during that workshop. So all of that happened that weekend. So then I come home Sunday afternoon. I'm really mushy still, like huge emotional hangover still. Everything feels surreal. I still feel, sad for everybody else's hurt and pain, and heartbroken for what everybody's gone through. And it just seems like there's so many hurting out there, whew, and and that sucks. I hate that there are so many people out there hurting, and it's not just like small things. I mean, these are like a lot of a lot of traumas, like really bad traumas that people have gone through. And it's just, it's a lot for me to take in. Anyway, so I'm here home, super mushy, raw, still like emotional, huge emotional hangover. I'm crying. Um, I had to have the conversation with my partner about some of the stuff so that he could understand why I was still super emotional about everything. And he did understand. And So Monday, I'm trying to do this midterm exam, and it is hard to say the least. It is hard to stay focused on my midterm exam. I had to write a paper for anthropology, and it was really hard to stay focused, and it took me the entire day, like the entire day, up until like right before midnight. I had to turn it in like before midnight, and so, oh my god, because I kept stopping, and then I would like, um what's the word, I started like daydreaming, or like thinking about, not really daydreaming, I was just thinking about all the stuff over the weekend still. Like all that stuff was still raw, and because this was like the next day after I got home, and I was like taking breaks, and I would and then I'd just be crying again, and um just thinking about, even like whenever I got to that to the core of that trauma that stirred up like anger in me. It also opened up other little traumas that I hadn't thought about either. Um, and even like that week before I went to the workshop, I had already been thinking about stuff. Um, I'd already been thinking about stuff, you know, that had been bothering me, that I kind of just shoved down and don't never have talked about and stuff. And and so I tried to finally like let go of that stuff, and open up about it. And so I remember, so when I went through my first purging process, I may get off track here a little bit, but when I went through my first purging process, back in like 2018, I was like 37, 38. And when I went through that purging process, I remember things were coming up that I hadn't remembered since I was like a child, since I was like 7, 8 years old. Things that had happened to me, and and another thing that had come up was because since I went through since the age of 2, I had been going through child sexual abuse. Um, I don't know if I can say that, but hopefully my video doesn't get taken down. But since I'd gone through CSA, um, since I was 2 years old, I had been over. Uh, Anyways, I can't say that word. I might get taken. My video might get taken down. So, um, so one of the things that came up for me through the first purging process at 37, 38 was that I had molested my own brother. And at that age, I think I was about 7, 8 years old. And and I remember when it came up the first time through my first purging process, I felt so shameful about it and so embarrassed. And I didn't speak to anybody about that. And I just held it in, and I kept it to myself. And to this day, I don't think a lot of my sisters know about that. It's something that I've been really shameful about. And so the week before I went to this workshop, this trauma workshop, that had been coming up for me. and and I just got to a point where I was like, I shouldn't be ashamed about that because I didn't know any better, because that stuff was being done to me and I thought that that was normal. And I just need to just get it off like my chest because it's something that's been in there and I haven't spoken to anybody about, and I've just been holding it in. So, my brother had, I called my brother, and I finally like told him, hey, like, hey, bro, I'm really sorry. Like, I'm remembering this stuff, you know, and I just want to tell you that, I'm really sorry for doing that to you. And I said, I'm so sorry that I did that to you. And it's weighing heavy on me, and I just have to get it off my chest. And my brother has had a really hard life, to where he's struggled with addiction, and in and out, of course, getting in trouble for that, and so in and out of jail and prison and stuff. And so I thought to myself, what if like what I did to him caused him to go through that? Like, what if I'm part of the reason why he's gone through, that type of life, that type of life. And so I just felt like I just want to be able to apologize for doing that to him when we were young, and maybe that'll release him from, help him heal, if he remembers that, and I don't remember how old he was, but he's definitely younger than me. So if I was like 7, 8, then he was probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5, he's very young, maybe younger. I don't remember how when his year of birth is. But so I'm the second child, and he's the 1, 2, 3, 4. He's the 5th child. So I think he's a lot younger than me. So anyway, I called him up and I asked him to forgive me for that. And he told me, I don't remember any of that, sis. Like, that he didn't remember any of it. And so I was like, well, should I have said anything? I mean, I guess I still should have said something because it was still bothering me, but either way, like, I did question, like, was it the right thing to do, to like apologize for something that he didn't even remember? But the thing is, I didn't know if he remembered or not, right? So anyway, I talked about, that was a thing that I talked about in the trauma recovery workshop. I opened up about that, and because I wanted to be 100% like transparent and honest and vulnerable so that I could get past this stuff, and be able to move forward, and let other people know. Like, I'm sure I've heard of stories, a lot of stories that of similar situations within families, where kids are over, I don't know if I can say over sexualized. Kids are over sexualized, so like they don't know any better, and they're kids that have been experiencing this since they were young. So then they go and think it's okay to do the same thing to their siblings or their cousins and stuff like that. And so none of it is getting addressed. None of it is being talked about. And so this continues to be swept under the rug within families, and things like this can only escalate, like, as generation to generation, and so I thought, how much better would it be if we just opened up? But because of the shame that we feel from this stuff, nobody talks about it, because we feel so shameful about some of the stuff that we did as kids that we didn't know any better about. But as adults, we know that was wrong, right? So we feel shameful because we're like, that's something I would never like condone or do again, or, I would never. And I know it's wrong now, but back then we didn't know. We were kids, and we were also, you know, being touched inappropriately, thinking that that was life. That's just the way things were. And so that was another thing that I had gone through, that I opened up about there. And I wanted to open up about it here because I know that there's so many families that are, that have experienced similar situations, and and they feel so shameful about things that they didn't know any better when they were younger, when they were kids still. Now you get into the whole situation of an adult doing this to a child, then that's different. That's a whole nother, um, different thing. But when it's a child who has been touched inappropriately, um, for for a while, for many years, who knows, but and they don't know any better, right? And they go do the same thing to other kids, and then those kids think that that's normal, so then they start doing. So it just becomes this vicious cycle, and we have to put a stop to that. And how do we put a stop to it? By talking about this stuff, by exposing it, by um you know and that's another thing that comes to mind. If there is a child that is touching another child inappropriately, then the question you should be asking is, why? Where did they learn that from? Who did that to them, that they think it's okay to do to somebody else? And that's the important question here. When it comes to children touching other children inappropriately, then you need to start looking to what adult is doing that to them, that's around their environment. And uh so yeah, that stuff came up, and I finally like let it out and spoke about it to like a group of like 20 people. And y'all are, I spoke about it to, came home, I think, well, before I left to the workshop, I had already spoken to my partner about it as well, and let him know, this is stuff that's been coming up for me, and how I talked to my brother and apologized to him and cried with him on the phone. And so, yeah, I think that if we just, start talking about this stuff, even though we feel so shameful about stuff like this sometimes, even though it wasn't our fault, we can. I feel like a ton of bricks has been taken off of me, because I feel like I've been able to let that go now, and I can move forward past that, and so gave me a sense of peace that my brother didn't even remember that. So it wasn't what I had done to him that caused him to go down the wrong path in life, and because for a long time I blamed myself for that, and never told anybody about it. I just kept it to myself, but I did. I blamed myself a lot for that, and so yeah, now I'm at a little more at peace now with that. Uh, so yeah, the integration that first week was really rough. Integrating back into my regular schedule, right? And I'm going to school during the week, so on top of feeling raw and mushy and still having to deal with these things that I had, this shadow work that I had done over the weekend that was still lingering, having to reintegrate back into going back to my classes during the week, and reintegrate back into just here at home. And I took, I think there was a couple of nights that I went for some walks with my partner, Another thing that came up for me was, the during the workshop came up for me was the ghost pregnancy. I never dealt that I had when I was like 37, 38, and I never really dealt with the emotions of that. I just kind of like it happened. I was a single parent at the time too, and so I just kind of was like, it happened, and I need to get back to work, and I was almost evicted during that time because I couldn't work because I was in and out of the hospital for a few weeks, and so yeah, so I just kind of was I had to rush what I had gone through, but uh, basically, I had a ghost pregnancy uh, at 38, like 37, 38. I had a ghost pregnancy, and and that and the doctor, um, the guy doctor that I had told me that my body would push it out on its own, and my belly was the sac was still growing, and but the baby was not. So it was just, from what I was told, it was just a dot in the sac. The baby never grew, but the sac kept growing, so my belly kept growing. And so like all the emotions like that you go through during a pregnancy, all the feelings, all the hunger. I mean, I was extremely thirsty. That pregnancy was like, I felt like it was sucking the life out of me. That's how I felt during the pregnancy, because I felt so thirsty all the time. Like I felt like I had been walking every morning. I'd wake up and I felt like I'd been walking in the desert for like a week with no water. And I felt so thirsty. And every morning I wake up, and I'd never experienced that in any of my other four pregnancies. So, and so anyway, my belly was growing. So I felt I felt pregnant, even though they kept telling me there was no baby in there. And but that my body would push it out on its own. My body would do the work on its own. And so I waited and I waited and I waited, and I think I was about 3.5, almost 4 months at that point that I finally went back to the doctor and I said, you need to give me something, because I felt myself getting depressed because I was um, growing. I was getting attached to this baby which felt like it was growing because my belly was growing, but but the reality was that there was no baby in there. And so I felt like I was going into a depression because it was hard to wrap my mind around that. It's like I'm feeling the pregnancy, I'm seeing my belly grow, but there's no baby in there, right? And so at first I didn't want the baby. I was like, this cannot be happening. My youngest is like already 10, 11 years old. And that would mean I would have to start all over again. And the father would not be a good father. I um so I originally didn't want the baby, right? And I was struggling between um an abortion, doing an abortion, and or giving the baby up for adoption. And I was praying a lot because I was like, I really don't want to do an abortion because I don't want to feel guilty for, killing my baby or whatever. And I think that I don't know, maybe I prayed really hard and that's what happened, is that I had this ghost pregnancy so that I wouldn't have to deal with the decision of either getting a miscarriage, um, either having an abortion, I'm sorry, or or giving the baby up for adoption. Because I also felt that if I gave the baby up for adoption, I would know that that baby was alive, and that would mean I would have to go through the entire pregnancy, and I would already be really attached to that baby. And could I even come to terms with that, giving my baby away, right? Once I had the baby. So either way, it was a hard decision for me. Really hard, really, 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 really hard decision. And ultimately, when they told me that it was a ghost pregnancy, part of me was relieved. Most of me was relieved, I think, because I wasn't going to have to make that decision. of abortion or adoption. But then part of me, as my belly started growing and I started getting attached to this baby that wasn't there, I started feeling depressed and sad because I felt like I really was pregnant. It felt like I really, really, really was pregnant. Yeah, so going through those emotions back then, I went through them by myself pretty much. And the baby's father was not really involved in the emotional process of that, right? I think he was going through his own emotional processing of it, but away from me. So we were, I think, emotionally processing it separately, away from each other. So whenever I went back to that doctor, I said, hey, you need to give me something. I cannot be like this. Like, I cannot continue like this, waiting for my body to expel this sac with no baby, and then I'm getting attached to a, only a belly because there's no baby in there. And so he agreed to give me the abortion pill, or whatever they call it, miscarriage pill. And so he agreed, and he prescribed that. And so I took it, and I ended up in labor the next morning. I went to the hospital, was in labor pretty much all day. And then the following day was whenever it finally, like, the sac came out. And at home, because the hospital had already, they were like, you're, well, the doctor gave you that. We know that's what's happening. You just got to go through that process at home. And so they sent me home, and um, they checked all my vitals. Everything was fine, whatever. And they sent me home, and I had that miscarriage at home, of the sac. I don't even know if you call it a miscarriage because there was no baby in there. Anyway, so, but before I had taken that pill, I had asked the doctor just one more time, just make sure that there is no baby in there, because I don't want to feel guilty for taking this pill and killing my baby, right? Because by this point, I'm already thinking, like, I'm just gonna keep the baby because I've already grown attached to the belly, to the baby, to the belly, whatever. And if the baby is really in there, to me, it's gonna be a miracle baby, and I'm just gonna keep this baby, right? And so, I asked the doctor just to check one more time. They'd already checked two other times, but I was like, just one more time. I just want to make sure again. And to ease, I guess, to give me some peace of mind, he did. And yeah, there was nothing in there. 4 months in, and it was still just a dot. So then I'm going through the expelling of the sac at home by myself, and I did. And even after that, I still checked inside the toilet to make sure it wasn't a live baby. And I think part of me was just like, maybe maybe it could be a miracle, and stuff like that. So anyway, that happened. And so after that happened, I really didn't have anybody to lean on. I just kind of compartmentalized the way I always do, and pushed away any kind of feelings of grief, any kind of grieving that I was feeling. Pushed it aside, and I'm like, I got to get back to work because I'm about to get evicted. Me and my kids are going to get evicted, so I got to get my butt back to work. And so I did, and I just went on with my life. And during this workshop, this intense trauma workshop, somebody brought up something similar, and so it brought that stuff up for me. And I think that it needed to happen for me, because I had never processed it before. And so I also had thought about I had thought about it like during my current relationship, but I just never really talked about it because I didn't know how he would feel about me talking about this baby that was somebody else's, right? Because I was in a different relationship back then. So I just kept it to myself. And so when I got back during that week, I finally opened up to my partner about it. Told him like that was stuff that came up for me. Fuck, my hair. Sorry, my hair is a mess. So anyway, so I finally talked to him about it, and I was really nervous. I was kind of nervous, not really nervous. I was kind of nervous about opening up about that to him, but he took it well, and he was super supportive. Like he just kind of, we were out for a walk, and I kind of brought it up, and then, you know, he just kind of gave me some space to talk about it, you know. So that felt good. So anyway, during that week, okay, so that happened like my midterm exam was Monday. Tuesday was that I took a walk. I think I took a walk Monday night too. Can't remember. But Tuesday night I took a walk with my partner, and that's when I opened up to him about it. Also, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm coming back to myself somewhat. So back to the day-to-day stuff, and noticed that I had grounded my stepson. Well, we had grounded my stepson like the week before I left to this workshop. Um, over something that, you know, over some of his behavior, right? And so when I came back, and I'm kind of coming back to myself, I realized like, hold on, he hasn't done his chores that he's supposed to be doing while he's grounded, and so, I stepped in and I'm like, okay, let me be more clear about what's supposed to be done every day, and what projects he's supposed to be doing until since he's gonna have more time on his hands and stuff, since he's not gonna be able to be outside playing with his friends. He have more time on his hands to do these projects, right? Um, and so he only had like one more week left by this point, and so I brought that up, like, hey, we need to get more direct about this, obviously, because it hasn't been done, and that I did not get. I don't feel like I got support from Dad on that. So um, since then, things have kind of been off with that as well, because we're not on the same page about the discipline when it comes to our stepson. And so I've been dealing with that on top of um, this whole raw stuff, mushy stuff from that came about with this workshop. And so just processing like just everything from that weekend, and then having to reintegrate back into day-to-day stuff like my college classes and my midterm exams, and more reports on top of quizzes, and oh my god, it's just been endless with all the schoolwork. And so on top of that, then I got this whole thing with not being on the same page with my partner about the discipline with our stepson, and so we're also trying to navigate that as well. And so it's been really tough since I got back. And I'm just trying to take it one day at a time, and just trying to also keep up with my exercise as well, because I'm supposed to be doing a SMART goal for school, and I chose for college, and I chose to lose 10 pounds in 6 weeks, right? I think I'm gonna have to pivot from that one because she said you just gotta learn how to pivot. Well, I think I'm gonna pivot from 10 pounds to 5 pounds because I don't think I'm gonna make the 10 pounds. But yeah, so I've been trying to incorporate exercise also, and of course it's usually by myself because I really don't know anybody in the area that's willing to go exercise with me. And so that's been a drag for me, is just because it's boring out there by myself. So trying to get myself to the gym, which I hate the gym. I hate the gym so bad. I think I did the gym for so many years that I'm just so sick of it. And but anyway, yeah, trying to incorporate more exercise and trying to cut some time out for myself too, to be able to lose the 10 pounds that I'm supposed to try to lose before the end of the semester. So yeah, it's been a long 8, 9 days, to say the least. I'm sure that there's more that I can say, but we are already at almost an hour, and I don't want to continue to bore y'all with, you know, extra stuff. But yeah, that's been my integration process back from that intense trauma workshop. So it's been a journey, but I'm hoping that all of this um, what's the word, will be for the benefit, for my benefit, as far as like continuing to peel back the layers of trauma and all the shadow work that I need to do before I become a therapist. So um, yeah, I'm working on myself, but it's not easy. I can say, doing shadow work and trauma intense trauma workshops are kind of hard to process, I guess. But it's something that has to be done so that I can move forward, and I think it'll be for a better version of me. Let's put it that way. So yeah, that's um, that's about it. That's all I got for y'all. If y'all have any questions or comments, put it in the chat, and I can try to answer y'all back on the next video or just chat y'all back. All right, bye.